Good to great extension, influencing on-farm change at pace and scale was a topic of my Nuffield project. You can go to the Nuffield website or go on the webcast and you can listen to the audio of the recording from the New Zealand Nuffield conference. So good to great extension. Let's define what is extension. Extension is the process of enabling change in individuals and communities and industries. And in short, all of us in this room are involved in extension, whether it be trying to influence our parents, our children at home, or in some of the community roles that we hold. So why do we need to be influencing change at pace and scale? I firmly believe that the competitive advantage of any agricultural company does not rest on how much R&D investment it makes alone. That is important, but I think the competitive advantage is really determined by how quickly the farmers pick up and implement currently known and new technology behind the farm gate. So I had two objectives when I set out to do my study. First objective was to seek out successful case studies of what has actually worked around the process of practice change in agriculture and also outside agriculture, because we're all trying to achieve and influence change. My second objective was to come back and make some recommendations on how we can actually improve how we deliver extension. Change literature quotes that 70% of change efforts fail. And the reason why change efforts fail is that we make a fundamental assumption that everybody is at the stage of making a decision. So we are assuming that everybody is at action stage. But the reality is there's a cycle of change. So before people start considering anything, they pre-contemplate what they're going to be doing until they get to a point where they keep replicating what they're achieving. And once they've got to the maintenance stage, it's like the flywheel effect. Each and every other change after that becomes easier. So for your staff on your farm, when you're trying to train them on a different method or technique, you've got to understand what stage they are on the change cycle, because that makes a big difference with regards to how quickly they start executing what you want them to achieve. I'll share with you now the person who's had the biggest impact on my Nuffield travels, Professor Albert Bandura from Stanford University. 85 years old, he's regarded as the godfather of change geniuses. He's influenced many people. When I was researching to find out who's actually had the biggest influence on a large number of people that have influenced themselves, other people, his name came up in quite a number of different searches. Albert shared with me the most important principle that he uses consistently to achieve the results that he does. And he said to me, if you want to influence people, you've got to influence and change how they behave. But before you change how people behave, you've got to change how people think. So, by understanding and clearly implementing that whole process, that enables extension to be effective at influencing people. Albert Bandura developed the social learning theory in 1977, and the social learning theory states that most human behavior is learned observationally. From observing others, one forms a view of how future behavior can be performed. Albert also shared with me that no matter how many times people can observe a particular behavior, they'll only engage in changing their practice if they personally feel that through their own efforts, they're going to achieve success. So what does this actually mean in terms of extension? What this means in terms of extension is we should be giving farmers several examples of people that have achieved success in the areas where we're trying to influence change. Because each particular individual would have used a different pathway and methods in changing or implementing different practices. He talked about a concept called vicarious behavior. So when we see other people that are similar to us, we tend to resonate with what they've done. And if those people have adopted certain practices, it makes it easier to motivate people to change their own practices on their farms. What this also says to me is that when Extension is running events, they should be looking at bringing farmers as the core delivery vehicle in getting a message out. Because other farmers coming to that event are going to see somebody who's similar to them, deriving living off the land. And we can have people in extension, whether it's scientists or people in development, standing alongside a successful farmer, putting the theoretical or the research process that's involved in explaining why that concept works. And the farmer is the one that really sells the message. So we should, as extension professionals, emphasize and keep farmers in the driving seat of communicating messages. So I'll talk now about a few other people that Albert has influenced that I came across. So Miguel Salvido, a Mexican television executive, put together a soap opera called Ven Conmigo, and that means come with me. Ven Conmigo had a series of plot lines and characters of people that were illiterate. But through the drama series, Miguel took people on a journey from the frustrations they were experiencing of being illiterate to the frustrations they felt when they went through the process of gaining literacy. When this television program aired, there was a 9-fold increase in the number of people that involved in adult literacy. So what were the key principles? When I went through and read his work, Albert Bandura's social learning theory was the key foundation that Miguel Salvido had used in terms of putting together the television program and influencing people. So it was about vicarious association. The people that were illiterate, through the drama program and seeing different characters in the program, they resonated with different characters, and that motivated them to seek out and improve their own literacy levels themselves. So another case study I came across closer to home within Dairy NZ Extension was how we apply and use the whole farm system approach. Whole farm system approach really involves looking at the total business rather than going in and trying to improve just pasture management in a farm business. You're looking at improving pasture management, but you're linking how that is going to help that particular business achieve its personal and business goals, and that includes financial and physical performance. That whole farm approach actually helps give people context and motivates people around the area of practice change. I'll now touch on my third case study, and this involved World War II experiences. So in America, during World War II, the American government realized that changing the American population's eating habits was a really important contribution towards the war efforts because of the shortage of meat. So two women, Margaret Mead and Kate Lewin, put together an action research. In this action research, they identified the fundamental and important role that the housewife plays in shopping, growing food, and in cooking. So what they wanted the population to do was eat more variety meat, so that's a liver, kidney. Probably meats that most of you here don't eat, but I consider it a delicacy given the culture that I come from. So in this action research, they had two groups of women. Both groups came into a room like you are here today, and they listened to a university professor tell them about the benefits of eating variety meats and why they should do it. They walked out of the room saying, yes, we will go and try it because we know that we've got a responsibility to help our national efforts. And then half of that group was brought back in, and instead of the university professor, they brought a housewife who was cooking these recipes herself for her family. And when they did the follow-up research, the group that only got the lectures, there was only 3% change. And the group that had the lectures and had the housewife there talking about her personal experience and enabling discussion had 70% change. So you can see some of the principles that Bandura talked about. People similar to the target group that you're trying to influence will have a bigger influence than just trying to have a technical position in trying to influence people using their technical skills. So those are my 3 case studies. I'll just take you on a journey on some of the people that I met as I did my research and just tell you a little bit more about some of the discussions that I had with them. So I was at the Noble Foundation, it's in Oklahoma, quite an impressive setup, and I met with their consultant. One of the key things that I took away from this meeting was having honest discussions with farmers. Sometimes as professionals we go and drive up the driveway, and I'm sure this doesn't apply to anybody in this room because all of you are top performers, is having honest discussions with clients and actually explaining where their business, how their business is actually placed, how it's performing, benchmarking, and having honest discussions sets the tone for people to reflect on the messages that you've left with them. So that was something that I picked up. They also have contracts. They sign a contract with the farmer. So the contract actually sets the tone that there's an expectation that change will occur from the extension interaction. And I think signing a contract could be a little bit scary for others, but I think verbally, if you verbalize there's an expectation from hosting a particular day, that based on the feedback that comes through, that you expect that there's a willingness to actually implement some change, could be one of the things that we try and implement ourselves in extension. I went and visited the Danish Knowledge Institute, and the Knowledge Institute trains all the consultants in Denmark. And one of the key things that I picked up from the Danish Institute is having consistency around your training program. The contrast to this is my experiences in the UK, where the extension professionals are mainly facilitators and do not cover technical content. They bring in hired consultants who may have different views on some key messages around farm systems. So the Danish system worked really well. Central training organization, consistency in messaging, and that means that farmers are getting the same message. My travels in France, I met up with a farmer who's critically involved in extension. The change method that I talked about with regards to World War I, with Kurt Lewin and Margaret Mead, they use that universally in all their training. So you heard earlier on in the main session that they've got these agricultural chambers. So the agricultural chamber essentially drafts or puts together all the training that France regional agricultural chambers go through. So they were really sold on the concept of identifying some of these critical decision makers in a business. In extension, we need to identify who are some of the gatekeepers associated with a particular business. Because if we identify who those gatekeepers are, and we align our messages with those gatekeepers, we'll be able to have so much more impact in what we do. Some of the gatekeepers are the partners. So consciously, as extension professionals, we need to take the opportunity of making sure that both parties are involved in the discussion around implementing change in a particular farm business. In Holland, I had the pleasure of meeting Professor Lawrence Clerics, and the key take-home message from me from Lawrence was that we need to be using these networks. So when we go to a farm business, we should be looking at who are the people that support that particular business in the area that we're trying to influence change, and then working alongside those people. Kind of like links with the point around gatekeepers, but quite different in the sense of actually asking the question, who has influenced your business in the past? And who's influencing your business now? And then working with those people in terms of influencing change in a particular farm business. The UK has also got a different model. Some of the change that happens in the UK is through the supermarkets and through the Red Tractor certification scheme. So if you want to supply some of these supermarkets, this is a meeting I had with a gentleman from Tesco's, and that's how they influence change on their farms. So what have I done, having gone out and did my research on Nuffield? So one of the things that we have changed, and I'll just pick up my pointer here because I dropped it, is in these first 2 years here we had a focus farm that we had started in Northland. And one of the things, or some of the major things that we've changed, is about how we have improved profitability in these 2 years. The key triggers that drove that change is that we have our farmer group, most as our lead presenters, they do most of the presenting and the talking at the field days. And because they're involved in the management group and influencing that particular farm business, because we have given them the front row seat in terms of influencing that particular focus farm, we have had a huge lift in profitability within that business. This business last year achieved $200,000 more profit at a similar milk price. So we had, if we hold the milk price constant at $6, they achieved $200,000 more profit. The key change here has been getting those farmers right in front, influencing that particular farm, and we've also had a huge increase in the number of farmers that have voted with their feet coming to the field day, because they're hearing from other farmers. Whilst we're communicating the message as well, but they're hearing the message coming consistently from other farmers. Yesterday's victories don't win tomorrow's races. The competitiveness of our agricultural sector really hinges on how quickly we pick up and implement things behind the farm gate. In New Zealand, we learned the hard way in 2013 on the shores of San Francisco, needing to win one more race. Team Oracle pipped us, being led by an Australian. So we shouldn't be complacent. We should always be looking at where's the next big opportunity in our farm businesses. Thank you.